Over here. There it is. We are live. Ooh, look at that. I've got like this crazy effect of the sun going on behind me. Let me move this a little bit. Ooh, still more sun. It's so bright I gotta wear shades. It is October 11th, 9:48 in the morning. It's 55 degrees. It warmed up. I'm Ryan Dobson. It's Rebel Live. YouVersion Verse of the Day. Sponsored by Bible.com. I'm using producer Kay's phone. And Facebook just told you that I'm live. Colossians 3:15. Let the peace of Christ, the inner calm of one who walks daily with him, be the controlling factor in your hearts, deciding and settling questions that arise. To this peace indeed you were called as members in one body of believers, and be thankful to God always. Let's compare the versions. I love the Amplified. That's funny. Amplified is like this long. ESV is this little tiny one. ESV, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Awesome. What's up, Shelly Daniels? Good to see you this morning. How is your life? I'm going to do the Amplified version one more time because it's so good. Amplified, I got to get into that. You got me turned on to that. Producer K with the Amplified version. I'm down. What's happening, YouTube? Good to see you. Facebook. Let the peace of Christ, the inner calm of one who walks daily with him, be the controlling factor in your hearts, deciding and settling questions that arise. To this peace, indeed, you are called as members of one body of believers, and be thankful to God always. Ooh, thank you, Kay. Lord Jesus, thank you for all the rebels out there in the struggle to be better parents and better spouses. Give us strength and courage to be loving and to give grace. In your name, amen. How are you all doing this morning? I am going back and forth. See, Facebook, when I look over here, it's because I'm looking at YouTube. YouTube, when I look over there, it's because I'm looking at Facebook. That's what's happening. It's so close. So, let's see. Book winner. I'm going to wait till some mores are on. And then we'll do talking about some book winners. What are we talking about today? Health? So I'm listening to a podcast with Dr. Rhonda Patrick. I listen to Dr. Rhonda Patrick as often as I can. Because she's super, super smart and totally nerdy, and I love it. It just makes me so happy. And she does, I forget that I go to the extremes on certain things. I forget that part of my personality. And I was talking to someone over the weekend, they were talking about ketogenic eating and ketogenic stuff, and like, oh, do you put, oil in your coffee? And I was like, yeah, and they're like, and I go, does it bother you? Does it make you sensitive? Wait, you were talking about that, Kay, right? And how much did you put in? 2 tablespoons or teaspoons?
No, teaspoon. A teaspoon.
1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon.
Of what?
Brain octane. Of MCT oil.
1 teaspoon of MCT oil. Producer Kay uses 1 teaspoon in her coffee. I'm putting in like 1/8 of a cup and 1/4 cup. Like I'm drinking it.
Do you diarrhea?
No. Yeah. That's the thing too. So it'll totally make you feel like an infant. It can. But not with me that much. I down that stuff. But I've been doing it for so long. I've been probably drinking it every day for 2 years. So I'm like way, yes.
It's not coming up. Like, no, it's saying content cannot be found on my phone nowhere here.
That's weird because Marshall just gave me the big thumbs up, I think. Didn't you, Marshall?
Good.
Shelly, are you still there? Somebody give me the high sign. Swipe only, video only mode. Swipe left. No, that didn't work. Who knows? I think I'm on.
You're good. Keep going.
But here's the interesting one. So I've got to listen to the whole thing with Dr. Rhonda Patrick. It's 8 months old. I love that YouTube was like, hey, here's a suggestion for you. It's like the recommended things. And I'm like, ooh, I definitely, and usually it really does get it right. Like I definitely want to watch that. And so I thought it was recent. So I was going to listen to it on the way down today. 8 months old. That's an 8-month-old podcast. How did I miss it? But she's talking about, and this is what I love, because she never says anything without saying a study, blah, 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 blah. And then if you sign up for her newsletter, if you go to her website, all those types of things, she will give the source information for where the studies that she gets this from. But she was doing this thing. If you want to you're learning something that needs for short-term memory, you're going to go on stage in a couple hours and you're reading something over. If you go for a run, then study whatever you're doing, it gives you an increased boost in short-term memory. Okay, this is a good one. And I'm not a big runner. My knees can't really take it. So I think this is for any really vigorous cardiovascular activity. So rowing, but something like for real, not just, pretend like you're my trainer, Jess, not just get me to do a little, little get the body moving, little warm up kind of thing, but like from some serious stuff. If you run before, wait, is this right? Yeah, run, then learn, short-term memory. Yes. And if you want long-term memory, it's learning, then running afterwards. That solidifies it more into your brain for the long-term stuff.
What if you ran before and after?
I know. Then you get double duty, run before and after, short-term and long-term. But I'm definitely gonna try with that. And then she was talking about broccoli sprouts and sprouting your own broccoli and eating those like alfalfa sprouts. But there's this chemical in there that is apparently amazing for longevity. And then the other thing I'm doing now is I'm trying to do the, what is it? I'm on my phone, so I can't look at it. I've got an app for it. I think it's celestial fasting. I'm doing 12 hours on, 12 hours off. It's hard. It's really hard. Like if you ask people, Amy Barnes, what's happening? Amy, did your husband come back from deployment? I think that was you. I could be wrong. But Dr. Rhonda Patrick on that episode of Rogan talks about intermittent fasting. And if you can limit your eating to a 9 to 12 hour window a day. So if you start eating at 8 in the morning, you stop at 8 at night, 12 hours, or if you can drop it down. All right, well, I'm glad you're here anyway. Completely can change your body composition. Totally can change it. And and here's the thing, they do all these studies with mice and rats and labs and all that kind of stuff. 21-day fast, that is bananas. I don't think I can do that. But this is the other thing too. So the intermittent fasting is like the 12 to 15 hour fasting a day. So if you can get your eating within a 9-hour window and don't do anything else, that's the interesting thing about these studies is they can do this in a lab situation. If you eat a moderately healthy diet and limit your eating to a 9 to 12 hour window, if you can fast for 12 to 15 hours a day, lean muscle mass gain, lower your fat, all this great stuff. And then Tim Ferriss is talking about ketogenic fasting, doing a 3-day fast once a quarter and like a 5 to 7 day fast once a year as an anti-cancer property, and that's in Tools of Titans. So as I finish that, I'll write it up and kind of have some things that I can have on here. But first winner of the day for the books is Marshall Partlow. Marshall Partlow. Are these all for the Mom Strong, or do we have other ones too?
Marshall can pick, and then the rest of them are Mom Strong.
Okay, so Marshall can either get We Stood Upon Stars or Mom Strong. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I think you already have We Stood Upon Stars and Audible, so I don't think he's going to take that one. But we've got 3 Mom Strongs and a Stood Upon Stars. So Marshall gets to choose. He can text me what he wants, either Mom Strong for Lindsay or Stood Upon Stars. And then we'll choose 2 more in a little bit. So yesterday, I went and got the mustache lined up by my barber. I was doing it on my own, and it was not looking good, and I'm getting ready to grow the beard back, and I've got a big event this weekend. So I went to El Jefe. Mom Strong. What's up, Stacy? Isn't it amazing? Oh, she calls me Daddy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Marshall, you got it. She calls me Daddy for Marshall. For sure, I'll give that one to you. So I went to my barber, Jeff, and my barber is, you know him because I talk about him. He is a giant. He's huge. He is 6'10", 6'11". He's a big, giant black man. And I love talking to Jeff because he has real, honest conversations with me. And here's the reason why. Because I've known him for 10 years. And it's like 8 or 10 years he's been cutting my hair. And he's not cutting my hair now because I shave all of it off. I'm going to do it again tonight. It's freezing, which is why I'm all bundled up. It was in the 30s this morning when I left my house. But I was talking to Jeff because he watches the videos, and then we get to talk about racism and Kaepernick and all the things that are going on in Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. So I'm just talking. I'm not making declarations of fact. I'm just talking about this. But here's what we were talking about yesterday. The 2 things. What's up, Steve? Shout out from Maine. I got a family I'm praying for in Maine, Steve. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I got to get all over the map on this. How much time are we in? 10 minutes? We're fine. Okay, good. There's two things. It's the perception equals reality. And so and that's why I'm having a hard time. There's a bunch of things. So let's start with the protest itself. Protesting during the national anthem while the flag is up. So Kaepernick originally was sitting on the ground during the national anthem. And he talked to a veteran, and the vet said, it really is disrespectful to sit during the national anthem. And they discussed it, and he said, well, what about kneeling? What about taking a knee? And this veteran said, that is a more acceptable thing to do. And so I just want to throw that out there. One, does that vet speak for every vet? No. Does that vet speak for every American? No. Does that vet speak for everyone that feels something about the flag? No. And it is showing that Kaepernick had a conversation with a vet. It's not just this, I'm doing whatever I want. I don't care how people feel about it. I'm going to do da-da-da-da. And I was talking to Jeff yesterday, and he said, why do you have such a problem with it? And I said, because it undermines our entire country. I said, when you start booing the flag and the national anthem, it really does something very, very, very damaging to the country as a whole. And he said, well, what would you do instead? And I said, here's my problem, is I don't know. And we're in a quandary here about protesting, because when I talk with my mentors and my counselors about marriages and about my marriage in particular, they believe and experience shows that delivery can be equally important as message. And my brain only wants truth to be the only important thing. Doesn't matter how you deliver it. If it's still true, it's still true. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if you don't like the way I said it. It doesn't make it not true. And they would say, sure, you're right. You're correct. You're right. You're also right over there by yourself. You're just alone by yourself over there. And being right isn't the only thing that matters in marriage or relationships or life. There is a connection, and we want to be unified in my marriage. And so they have encouraged me to look at my delivery, not just the message itself. And I agree with that. I think the delivery is very, very important. If I scream at my wife the truth, it's going to feel pretty ugly, regardless of whether it's true or not. And so that was what I was talking about with Jeff yesterday, and Kaepernick and Eric Reed and all these different guys, is the problem that I see is you allow certain conservatives to ignore the issue that you're protesting and ignore your feelings because of the delivery of the protest. But my problem is, what else is there? What else is there? Because Colin Kaepernick isn't being called on Rush Limbaugh and Bill O'Reilly and Hannity and Fox News and Fox and Friends and all those things to talk about black people getting shot. Now, just so you understand, and I've talked to Jeff about this, I don't think that it's happening the way it's being portrayed or reported by the media. I think the media isn't telling the whole story. I don't think cops are out there executing black people at an alarming rate. I mean, and people be like, but any is too much. Yes, I understand that. And it's not happening the way it's being told. It's just not. Once again, perception also equals reality. If you have a group of people that believe that the police are above the law, which in a sense they can be, and that they might do something to you and not get prosecuted for it, that would make me very, very afraid. It would make me very, very afraid. And so what do you do in instances like that? I don't know. And how do you protest in a way that gets the national attention to the issue that you believe to be bad without doing something that causes this much controversy? I also don't know, and that's my problem, is when people say this, well, I understand the need to protest, but not that way. And I go, well, okay, then what? Well, I don't know, but not that way. Well, then you don't get to say that. And I don't get to say that either. Because if you don't give somebody a voice and a way to express their frustration, and by the way, drop this all the way down into your marriages and your parenting with your kids. If you don't give your kids and your wife or your husband a voice, if you don't give them a way to say, I think this is unfair, I think you're being mean, I think I'm being mistreated, if you shout them down or suppress them or say, hey, you can't say it that way and da-da-da-da, you're going to have a tough time. You're going to have a tough time. And here's the truth too, okay? This is the other thing, and this is going to make a bunch of people mad. And this, I get nervous, by the way. I was nervous talking to him about this yesterday, and I'm nervous talking about it now because this could negatively affect my ability to earn an income. Being a white person and getting pulled over by the cops, I'm never afraid of getting shot. Never. I've never been afraid of being shot one time. And let me tell you, when I was young, I did crazy stuff behind the wheel of a car. I was reckless. I was dumb. In fact, I'll just give you one story. I was on a very, very long right-hand turn. I was going on a long right turn. It was probably... It was a corner that went for maybe, I'm going to go 1/8 of a mile, maybe 1/4 mile. And I had been speeding very, very fast. I am hauling like crazy. And as I'm driving along, I see the reflection of red and blue flashing on the opposite wall. Now, I can't see a cop behind me. I never saw a police officer behind me. But I did see the reflection of red and blue lights flashing on the opposite wall. Was he after me? I didn't know 100% for sure at that moment, but I wasn't about to find out. So I went, and I drove like a madman. I was the OG baby driver. What's up, Jeff? I'm talking about you right now. I was OG baby driver. I was probably, my goodness, how old would I have to be? 18 years old, and I'm in a 1987 Honda Civic, you doing e-brake turns in my Honda Civic, doing, 100 plus, 110 residential city street areas. Terrible thing. So, no more cop. Who's got two thumbs and stoked? I was stoked. So, minutes later, I get near on that same road. I'm driving along, doing the regular speed limit. Cop pulls behind me. Woo! Lights on. Now, this is my ADD brain. I didn't believe it was the same cop. It never occurred to this brain at 18 that it was the same cop. And I get pulled over, and this cop comes screaming up to my window. And I don't mean running, just running, but I mean literally running and screaming up to my window. And let me tell you, this is what I just said, Jeff. I was in no way, shape, or form afraid in any way. I was not afraid in any... See, I agree too, Stacy. I've been saying this the whole time. We live in a democratic republic. It's the First Amendment. You can protest. It's okay. Anyway, I was not afraid at all when that cop pulled me over. And here's how I know this to be true. Because I got smart alecky with him at one point. I was not the brightest bulb in the bunch. And this guy comes up and he's like, hey, you like running? And I go, what? And he goes, do you like running? And he's so angry. And I didn't realize he meant, do you like running away from police officers? I honestly thought he meant, I know, this is so dumb. Can you even believe this? And I was like, no, not really. Like, I don't like to run. I'm not a runner. I like other sports. And I go, no, not really. I'm so confused. And then he just starts laying into me, and then it dawns on me, oh, you were after me. I did see red and blue lights. That wasn't a figment of my imagination. There was a cop chasing me because I was doing 90 plus miles an hour. And you've been trying to find me for some time. He was so mad because some punk 18-year-old, outdrove him in a Honda Civic. And he's in, those Ford Interceptor. I mean, it wasn't the Interceptor back in the 80s, but whatever it was, it had a bunch more horsepower than me. And I mean, I lost him like it was, it was no big deal. Was I afraid at all? No. And in fact, he kept trying to get me to admit I had run from him, and I wouldn't do it. And I finally got frustrated. I go, hey, man, you want to arrest me? Arrest me. But if not, give me a ticket so I can go home. I literally said that to a police officer. Now, would I do that today in 2017? No. No, I would not. But this was 1987 or 88, so it was, that's 30 years ago, right? 30 years ago, I was like, give me a ticket or don't. He gave me multiple tickets. He wrote multiple tickets for speeding on one thing. This is how much hubris I had as a young man. I went to court and fought it and won. I ditched a cop. I drove 100 miles an hour. Now, I didn't win the entire thing. I still had to pay a good chunk of change. So I'm in court, me, stupid Ryan Dobson at age 18. I roll into court. By the way, this is down in the 80s. Like, I don't know if anybody's as old as me, but this is back in the day when your car stereo could pull out because stereo's getting stolen. So, like, I'm in there in my 80s sport coat that my mom had gotten me for, like, prom or something. I'm trying to, like, show that I'm the man or whatever. I'm holding my pull-out stereo, like, look how rad I am. So they're going through every person's name and, like, how do you plead not guilty? How do you plead not guilty? Every single person is there saying not guilty. I was like, wow, I'm the only guilty person here. Crazy. Like, what a thing. This is so funny. Nobody did it, just me, because I know I'm guilty. So finally it's like, James Dobson. And I was like, here. And he's like, how do you plead? I go, I'm guilty, but I have a question. The place goes dead silent. And the judge looks up and he kind of gives me the tilt and he smiles and he goes, okay. And I go, I'm holding my ticket here and I start listing all the things. It's like 90 plus. By the way, it was 90 plus and a 45. I was doubling the speed limit. And today you go to jail, like instant jail. He goes 90 plus and a 45. And he starts reading all the things. And he goes, so what's your question? I go, I was speeding. I admit I was speeding. I'll pay my ticket for speeding. But he gave me 4 speeding tickets on one. We all know I was speeding. How many tickets can you write one person on one ticket? I mean, he could have followed me to every street and just kept writing me ticket after ticket after ticket. Is that normal? And the place is just, all these people in there looking at me like, what are you doing? Why are you admitting to speeding? And the judge looks at me and he kind of goes, no, that's not normal. I go, well, then can you take some of those off? And he goes, yeah, I'll take all but the first one off. And I was like, oh, the first one was the 90 plus and a 45. And I go, okay. I go, thank you. I appreciate that. I go, any chance you want to give me traffic school? And he looks up, drops his glass, and he goes, don't push your luck. And I was like, all right, I got it. Totally smiled. Everybody starts laughing. I go up. He just crosses a bunch of stuff off. I walk out. Paid money. I left. So stupid. But that's the story to say, I ran from a cop. I did insane speeding, 0 fear. I'm not in fear getting pulled over ever. And you know why? Because I'm white. Because I'm white. That's why I don't have any fear of getting pulled over. And this is what I want to tell you. Whether or not you believe it's real or not, the perception of the black community is that it is definitely real. In fact, when Jeff was over for the fights, we were watching the Maymac fights here, we were talking about crazy stuff in traffic, and I turned to Jeff and I go, hey, want to bet you wouldn't have done that? And he's like, bro, no way. It was just like, are you kidding me, you stupid white people? You said that to a cop, it would get us shot. And I'm saying, maybe, for sure. It would definitely put them in danger. Jim Garlow is one of our best. He's a great pastor. This guy is just an amazing, amazing guy. Super uber conservative, Jim Garlow. He met with a bunch of black pastors in his area, in San Diego, California, by the way. And he said, regardless of stature, income, college degree, whatever, every single one of those black males said they are afraid, deeply in fear, when a cop pulls them over. That these pastors that love the Lord, that are serving their community, that have 0 records, no reason to be harassed in any way, shape, or form, when they get pulled over, by the way, oh my goodness, Marshall, you are so smart. If you go watch the end of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Chris Rock, they get pulled over in a Ferrari. It's Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock, maybe the 2 most famous comedians alive today, aside from Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's definitely the most famous comedian alive today. But at that time, it's Seinfeld and Chris Rock. Give me a break. Chris Rock was nervous, for real nervous, because that's how it is, and that's how it really is. Jim Garlow was meeting with these pastors, and they said they are in deep fear that when they get pulled over, their hands are on the steering wheel, fingers up, looking forward, window down. Yes, sir. No, sir. Is it okay if I get in my glove box? Can I reach into my back pocket? Are you sure that's okay if I do this? This is, if this goes south, my wife might be a widow in the next 10 minutes. This is an honest belief. Now, regardless if the statistics show that it's true or not, the perception does equal reality. When you've got an entire race and group of people that believe that, we have a problem in our country. And this is where I'm going to get in trouble. White people and police officers and police stations and police chiefs and precincts have to be better. We can no longer stand on but it's not true. If the perception is there, let's just say this. If your kids and your wife believe that you are out to get them, if they believe you're an abuser, that there's a high probability when you get angry that you're going to punch somebody, whether or not you've ever done it before, if any time you're having a conversation and it gets tense, you see the look of fear in their eyes. Now, let's say you adopt a child. Okay, Shelly, and here's the thing too. Again, stepping on landmines left and right. Shelly's husband is a sheriff. A sheriff or I think he's a sheriff, not a police officer. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't want to call him the wrong thing because that's not cool. And again, I don't want to eat shoe the whole time. I tell you what, police, okay, Shelly, I guarantee your husband doesn't want to write parking tickets and fix-it tickets and cracked windshields and broken taillights and no front license plate on the car. But those are all things they have to do. I think we need to get police back in the business of busting criminals and the perception that they are busting criminals. And we got to figure out another way to raise money for the city. I think cops would love it if... and here's the other, there's a couple of things, and I think we need to do this in all areas, and I'm going to talk about the Catholic Church. So here's what you do when you find a priest that's molesting kids. You throw them in prison forever and you throw away the key. That's what you do. You do that. You don't move them to another parish so they can molest more kids. And then you don't move them from there to a deaf school so the kids can't complain. That's not what you do, because when you do, you destroy the whole institution. Okay, when you watch comedians today, how many times are they making priest jokes about kids? And it's not true for most priests. The mass majority of priests aren't molesting children, but the general consensus in our cultural zeitgeist is that it happens, it gets hidden, it gets shuffled around, and the Pope doesn't really care about it. That's what the general consensus is. And so when you find an instance where people have had improprietaries when they're doing things that are wrong, you need to prosecute them with the fullest extent of the law. And I think that's like. And here's the thing. I'm gonna do. It was Eric Garner in New York City. I think it was Eric Garner. Eric Garner's the guy in New York City. Those cops should have been fired. They just should have. They should have been fired. And the fact that they weren't. Am I saying propagates? It furthers the belief that police are untouchable. This is a guy that's not committing a capital crime. He's not committing a capital crime. He's selling cigarettes. He's selling loose cigarettes. It's an IRS thing. It's the IRS. It's taxes. They choked a guy to death because he was violating a tax law. And what else can I say? What else can I say? You know, when things like this, so there's a case going on in Arizona right now where there was a white guy executed by a police officer, by a white cop. So there's a white guy executed by a white cop. And this is what I was telling Jeff yesterday. I was walking out the door, this is what we were talking about. The cop that shot him in the back, by the way, he was on the ground, hands over his head, and they shot him in the back. They're not in any danger whatsoever. By the way, you're talking to... One of my best friends in the whole world was shot in the back by the police on New Year's Eve a bunch of years ago. He ran away from the police with his arms over his head, and they shot him in the back 4 times. So he's never recovered. So I am aware of situations like this, and the police got off. They were not prosecuted. In fact, they said they used excessive force in the court case. They said, we used excessive force in the court case. They said, our lives were not in danger when we shot Mark. Our lives were not in danger when we shot him in the back with his arms over his head. And guess what? They got off. And this is what Jeff and I were talking about, this case in Arizona. By the way, the cop that shot him in the back, he was using an AR-15, and on the barrel it says, "You're effed." But it didn't say F, asterisk, asterisk. It said the whole thing on his gun. What? Now, so here's the deal. This is what Jeff and I were talking about. This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because if this guy goes to prison forever, then black people go, see, you shoot a white guy and you go to prison. If this guy doesn't go to prison and he gets off, black people go, are you kidding me? If white people can't get a fair shake, what chance do we have of getting a fair shake in this country? And to that I say, yeah, that's a crazy thing. That's a crazy, scary thing. That's crazy scary. That's what's going on. And I think we are broken right now. We are broken, and this is what I was talking about yesterday and why I think it's so scary. And I think if we were to bust criminals, all of the criminals, if you shoot a guy in the back unjustly, then you go to jail for it. That's what you do. You go to jail. If you choke a guy to death because he sold some loose cigarettes, then you go to jail for it. That's what happens. And that will change the perception. You know, the Supreme Court is going to rule on gerrymandering. What we've got going on in our country right now, there's a guy named Mark Garagos. He's an attorney, and he's smart. In fact, listen to this. He's the attorney that defended Scott Peterson. Do you remember Scott Peterson? You know what I'm talking about? Scott Peterson, right? Scott and Lacey Peterson. Do y'all remember this? Lacey Peterson, the pregnant woman that went missing. Then they find Scott with dyed hair and a bunch of money driving to Mexico, right? You remember all this stuff? Yeah, and then he had gone fishing on Christmas Eve day or Christmas Day. He had gone fishing. Who goes fishing on that day? Nobody would ever do that. And then the body gets found, and he's been in prison since 2003. Guess what? He didn't do it. Garagos said he absolutely didn't do it. So there's absolutely zero chance. And Garagos has tried case after case after case. This is an expert. This is the 10,000 hour thing. You trust this person. When he talks about cases, you trust him. And the way Peterson got convicted is, there's a documentary series on it. You should watch it. Because when you're done with it, it will terrify you. It will terrify you. You'll think, I hope I never go to court, because this is what can happen in court. And when you go Making a Murderer, when you watch that one, you go, oh my goodness, I hope I never go to court, because that's what can happen in court. And we've got it with attorneys do it with juries. Garagos is talking about it. He said, I tried the case for a hung jury. He said maybe nobody else has more hung juries than he does, because he tries cases specifically for it. It's easier to try a case for a hung jury than to win a case. And who cares? Because essentially you win anyway. And you can try a case for that. And he was talking about, let's see, OJ just got out. Can you believe this? OJ just got out. Yeah, OJ's out of prison.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing. Here's why. He didn't go to prison for murder.
Yeah.
He went to prison for strong-arm robbery and kidnapping. Yeah, totally. So bananas. Super, super bananas. OJ's out. He said Scott Peterson will probably go free 2018, 2019. His decision's going to get overturned. And he said Cosby will probably not go back to trial for health reasons. And that's crazy. That's super crazy. And I think it's wrong. Once again, it's wrong. If you raped and molested those women, I don't care how sick you are. Go to prison. Be sick in prison. Be sick behind bars. Be sick behind concrete. That's what I think. That's what I think. And then I got a weird one. Okay, so I watched a mini documentary last night from Rogue Fitness, because it's Wellness Wednesday, on a guy named Sandow, Sandow, and he was essentially the first bodybuilder. The first guy, in fact, the very first film recorded by Edison, I think I broke a tooth. I think it was either the first film or one of the very first films recorded is of Sandow posing. He was the first person that would pose, that would do all the bodybuilding poses, this and the stomach and all that kind of stuff, and they were showing it. So he had all these crazy things. It was vaudeville times. There was performances and strongman things and all this type of stuff. This is a weird one. It's a very, very, very interesting documentary. But one of the most interesting parts is when he died, his widow wouldn't let his grave be marked. There was something going on between his husband and wife, and she was so angry with him that she didn't want his legacy remembered in any way, shape, or form and wouldn't let a marker be put down. So that's the backstory. Now, what happened? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody has any idea. But now they're doing this documentary, and his great-great-grandson found the grave, and some friends found it, and they put up this big, huge gravestone, and it's modeled after him a little bit. It's like kind of this big, giant, rough stone. It says Sandown. It's got the things on it. And they're making documentaries about him and talking about how he was the first person, like he was the precursor to Schwarzenegger, and he was the precursor to pumping iron and all this kind of stuff. And he wrote one of the very first books on fitness, on strength and fitness and obtaining it, how to get it, and all this stuff. But here's the thing. We don't know what he did or didn't do, right? So we don't know. What if this guy was a horrible, horrible person, right? Like, this is my thing. Who knows? The wife was so mad, she didn't want anyone ever to remember his name, ever. And we went against that. And by we, it's been the collective we, his family, people, friends, blah, 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 who don't know what happened and put a grave marker up. What if we are praising someone that was a monster? We just don't know. We don't know. And I think that's interesting. What do you think about that, Kay? Here's the thing. It's what it is. It's the Lynch School in Oregon in reverse. So I've talked about this a few times. There's a school in Oregon, and it's Lynch Elementary School, and they're removing the name because they said it has bad connotations for slavery. And to that I say, no, it doesn't. Because there was nobody lynched in Oregon, and the family was the Lynch family. They donated the money. So they're changing the name of the school, even though they did nothing wrong. And I just wonder, what if this guy did something horrible, and now we're praising a guy that his wife knew what was going on, and we just da-da-da-da. I don't know. That's a weird one, right? Isn't that that's an odd one. The Sandow documentary, though, I know, right? Isn't it amazing? He's an amazing looking guy. Like, if you look up Sandow, like, it's crazy. And this was 1800s. That's the other one, too. That is the other one. I was talking to Jeff about this last night. So I think he was born in the 1850s or 60s. It was right after the American Civil War was over. This is what I was saying. I think I said this yesterday. I don't know if you heard this or not. But in 1956, my dad was born in the 30s, so he was in his 20s when this was going on. In the 20s, there was a TV show called I Have a Secret, and people would come on. It's like 20, I told this to Lincoln. It's 20 questions, essentially, but it was a TV show. And he looked at me like, that's the most boring thing in the world. And I'm like, well, it's because you're young. The guy that was on in 1956 was a witness to Abraham Lincoln's assassination in 1865. Just drop that knowledge for a second. In 1956, okay? Think about all the hot rods from the 50s, okay? All those 50 Chevys and those 54. I got a 49. I have a 49 Chevy. I have a 49 Chevy. I used to have a 32 Model A. I had a 32. In 1956, there was a guy on TV when my dad was in his 20s who was a witness to Abraham Lincoln's assassination. That's crazy. Our country is this old. And there's no space between my fingers. It's this old. We are not even the blink of an eye. We're not the eyelash on the blink of an eye. We are nothing. We are so young. And so I think that's the other reason why our nation is so young, our history is so short that we've got to be better. And I think and this is what I was going to say about privilege. Jeff and I were talking about this. There's so many ways to look at it, and I just want you to ponder it. I'm not saying I'm 100%. It's something I'm thinking about, I'm processing through right now. Jeff is either 6'10 or 6'11. I'm 5'10. So he's at minimum a foot taller than me. And his hands are this much bigger than mine. Like, my hand goes like this, and his, let's see, where is it? Right there. So, yeah, that's how much longer his hand is than mine. I can't even get it in one screen because he can do this and touch both ears with one hand. If we went out and played one-on-one basketball, he could keep me from scoring the entire time. We could play 15, 20 games in a row, and he'd beat me 21-0 every single time. He would just swat the ball away over and over and over again. He outweighs me by, I don't know, maybe 80 pounds, maybe 100. I don't know. He's a big dude. He's big, tall. No, not that. He's a big, tall dude, but I don't know, 70 pounds maybe. It wouldn't even be a game. And you know what? It wouldn't be fun. I wouldn't have any fun. He wouldn't have any fun. He wouldn't get better. I wouldn't get better. I would just lose the whole time. But because he has so much... In fact, we just interviewed Robert Wolgemuth the other day. We interviewed Robert Wolgemuth on She Calls Me Daddy. Robert Wolgemuth said this to me. He taught me to play racquetball in the 80s when racquetball was huge. And I was playing with my friend Craig. And he taught me a serve that was hard to hit back. And I just kept beating Craig over and over again. Just kept hitting that same one. And Robert said, "Are you having fun?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." And he's like, "No one else is." Like, he kind of put me in my place a little bit. I'm looking at producer Kay over here. But I remember that. And I remembered it yesterday talking to Jeff. Because it wouldn't have been any fun. I had privilege. Craig didn't. Jeff has privilege in sport. I don't. And to push me that far and just to slap it down over and over and over again wouldn't be any fun. With my kids, if I just ruled over them with an iron fist all the time, because I have privilege, I get to listen, And so this is what I want to say. When my kid throws a temper tantrum, I could say, "Hey, delivery is just as important as the message, and your delivery stinks, and I'm not listening to you." In fact, Lucy cried 10 times yesterday in the afternoon. My goodness, it was driving me nuts. She's super emotional. She just kept crying over nothing. And if I choose to not listen to her, then I am abusing my privilege as a parent. I'm going to throw this out. This is going to get me in so much trouble for my conservative friends. I'm abusing my power as a parent. If I make Laura argue her points against me, I'm abusing my power as a husband because I'm a better arguer than she is. I'm a lot better arguing than she is. I'm better than Kristen. I'm better than most people I know. I'm a really good arguer. I'm better than my dad at arguing. He didn't even like it. It's true. I'm better. And I have so much privilege in that it's not fair for me to out-debate and out-argue people and to make them play on my playing field. And I think as whatever area that you have privilege in, you should help the person up below you. And you should just suck it up and take it like a man or a woman. So if it's spiritual, if you have favor and privilege spiritually, and there are people around you that don't have that. In fact, that's what we were talking about the other day when I was talking about the power of the Holy Spirit and the fact that we didn't earn our salvation. It's like, I know he didn't. And I'm going to bring you up to the next level because that one's the baby one. That's the first thing I'm going to talk to you about. You didn't earn your salvation. The Lord paid the price for you, sent his only son to die. The Holy Spirit bridges that gap for us. It's the most amazing thing in the whole world, but that's down here. That's way down here. So I'm going to raise you up a little bit. I've got privilege in that area. If you've got physical privilege, if you've got mental privilege, you want to teach somebody something. My wife, Laura, Tony Ochoa, who's probably on here, his wife and he have mental privilege. They homeschool their children, and they don't go, "Oh, how stupid you are that you don't know all these things. I can't believe it." They help coach it up. And so if you've got privilege in power, again, let's talk to the president. It makes me so mad how unpresidential Trump acts. But calling those players sons of bitches really is callous. And by the way, it furthers the belief that the white privileged majority is out to get black America. How else? You got Ditka saying you should all be fired. You got the president calling you sons of bitches and saying you should all be fired. The NASCAR guys are saying you're going to get a ride home in a bus. By the way, it's all their prerogative. We live in a free country. You can do whatever you want on that stuff. And can't you just listen for a minute? Like, listen, Kaepernick isn't saying, "I'm going to sit out during the national anthem because I want to make more money." He's not saying, "I'm sitting out on the national anthem because I want more black head coaches." He's saying, "I think there are people being shot and no one's talking about it. And my community feels hunted. And we feel like if we get pulled over, we're not going to get a fair shake." And you can point out certain things like Eric Gardner, like that woman that was pulled over in Texas, the one that went to jail and just wound up dead. And the cops are like, "We don't know what happened." "Well, where's the security footage?" "Oh, what security footage?" "Oh, we can't find it." "What do you mean you can't find it?" Then every single one of you should go to jail and sit there until one of you rats how do I say this without cursing? Whoever it is that did it, go to jail. By the way, your whole police force, anybody that knows it and is standing behind those murderers, you should all go to jail. You're an accessory to a crime. Do you understand that? Exactly, Shelley, it does. And this is, by the way, I want to give Jeff open credit here. It does, and all of it should be prosecuted. And that's what he said, because I was telling about that case in Arizona. That case in Arizona where the guy was shot in the back with his hands over his head by 3 cops that weren't in danger. And he said, well, why don't you hear about it? And I said, because it doesn't match the narrative. You've got a liberal media elite, absolutely, and that doesn't match the narrative, and that's wrong as well. And here's the other truth, too. It's why when, Shapiro, Ben Shapiro, go Google, in fact, just Google it, Ben Shapiro, Piers Morgan, Sandy Hook. When Ben Shapiro goes on Piers Morgan's show, he puts him in his place because he said, listen, you're standing on the graves of Sandy Hook because you only want to talk about AR-15s and assault weapons. He's like, how dare you, in his stupid British accent. And he's like, you can keep saying how dare you. It doesn't mean it's not true. How dare you? Great, say it again, you dummy. But he said, handguns kill more people than AR-15s by many orders of magnitude. Do you want to get rid of all handguns? And he goes, no. Well, then you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite, and you don't care about children being killed. That's what happened. But the prosecution ought to happen. But Shelley, I just think we have more power. I think we can. I think we can be the bigger people. I think it's harder, but I think we choose to do that when we can. And I think that sets the example for younger people to say, when you have power, you can choose. What about a better way to protest? You may not. Right. See, that's the thing. Who just said that? I got to say that too. Tanya. I don't know, Tanya. And that's what I was saying earlier. I don't know if you were on for that. I don't know a way to get public attention that doesn't offend people like that. I don't know. I really don't. And that's the thing that's hard because, man, you want to go back to the 60s. You want to go back to the 40s and 50s when you want to go back early on to the civil rights movement. There was some serious protesting going on, and there's the thing, too. This is why it's 2017. Let's just take an honest look at how thin-skinned, whiny babies we all are, right? What did you just post on YouTube? Oh, Ben Shapiro. This is not civil unrest, right? Like when you go back to the civil rights movements and they were marching and protesting and stopping commerce and sitting in the wrong areas on buses and sitting at the lunch counters and things like that. That's called civil unrest, where you are breaking laws to protest. Kaepernick's not even breaking a law. He took a knee. And we all just lose our minds over it and say, can you believe it? Yes. Do you hear me? Yes, I can believe it. If I thought and by the way, I've got 3 black nieces and nephews. I got 2 nephews who are black, and I got a niece who's black. And regardless of how much money their parents make, because it's more than me, regardless of where they live and the privilege they have, and they are insanely privileged, they have a 1 in 3 chance of going to jail. That's what it is in America. 1 in 3 if you're black, regardless of stature, status, college degree, how much money you make, or where you live. National average possibility of you going to jail if you're black is 1 in 3. If you're white, it's like 1 in 12. It's ridiculous. It's maybe 1 in 23. And I've been, so, I went to jail a couple years ago. It was ridiculous. Have I told that story on here?
No, but you're almost at an hour.
I know, right? I talk so long. I am a rambler. Hey, I love you guys. Mrs. Ochoa, you want a book? Partlow, you get a book. Colleen Jajarian, I'm probably butchering your name, but you get a book too. Why do I think it is, Tanya? I think we are whiny. I think words mean more than actions. That's what I think. I think in 2017, words mean more than actions. Let's go back to the election. I'll close with this. Bill Clinton raped and molested women. Donald Trump talked about grabbing women in their private parts. He said words. This guy did actions. Bill Clinton molested and abused an intern, a female intern in the White House. Oh, why do more blacks go to jail? Oh. It's the short answer to a very long question is, when you have a breakdown in the family like that, in all areas where there is no dad in the home and you raise boys with no role models and no discipline and no structure and no rules, then more crimes are committed. It is not because of a person's skin color or where they come from racially. It is the breakdown of faith and family. That's all that it is. You can see it in every area. You go to white communities where there's no dads in the homes, and those boys will commit lots and lots of crimes because they have tons of testosterone and because they got to figure out what to do with it. They need dads to throw them around the house and wrestle with them. Lincoln and I do that all the time. He hits me now. It's hilarious. He's 10 years old. He's 11 in a few days. And I give him a little poke, and he punches. And then I punch him back, and he goes, ow! Why is there a breakdown? Oh, there's so many reasons. And one of them is affirmative action. I'm sorry, but one of them is affirmative action. It's a huge reason. It's a huge, huge reason. Abortion is a huge reason because Jesse Jackson won't speak the truth. I understand. Shelley, it's true. In fact, here's another thing, too. When you talk about police shooting citizens, regardless of color, the first thing you have to look at is what was the situation and were they armed? Dangerous? Yes. That's why people get shot most of the time. And what we're talking about, this case in Arizona and Eric Gardner, are the extreme. They are the extreme exceptions. Exactly, right, Shelley? See, that's the thing. And that's what I'm saying. When you make the police and the citizens adversaries, all hell will break loose. Pardon me, I don't want to swear on this thing, but it's true. It's all going to break loose. If I can't trust a cop, what am I going to do? This is so ridiculous. And that's why I think. Listen, who was the kid in Ferguson? Michael Brown. Michael Brown, right? Listen, again, and I think, I've been in this game, just so you understand, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been in the insider, tell me if I sound like I'm bragging, because I don't mean to do this, but I've been in the insider circle of politics since I was really, really, really young. 11 and 12 years old. Since the early 80s, being with my dad, I've been with presidents, and I've been with congressmen and senators, and I've been with the movers and the shakers in the political world, and I've seen these things happen, and there are literal, written, stated agendas that are out there, and that's one of them. Disrupting this is, that's what's going on. I just got so tongue-tied there for a minute. What was I doing? Scared to even interact. It's just so ridiculous. Where was I? Talking so long.
In the inner circle.
I know. Okay, there it is. I found it. I figured it. So when you hold up guys like Michael Brown as a hero, okay? Michael Brown is a hero. Backers of this all take anything started from the faults. Hands up, don't shoot narrative. What? I understand, Jason. I'll hit that in a second. But I just said it out loud. Oh, yeah, Michael Brown. So when political organizations and groups of people start doing things like I am Michael Brown. Now, listen, you want to do I am Trayvon Martin? I agree with you. How Zimmerman avoided, this is the thing too, and why it furthers the belief that black people aren't getting a fair shake in our country is why Andrew Zimmerman isn't in prison. I don't understand that, and you can't explain it to me in a way that makes sense. This guy followed an unarmed child. Trayvon Martin was a child. He was a youth. He's a child. Oh no, he's wearing a hoodie. Guess what? So am I. I wear one almost every day. He wore a hoodie. Oh no. I guess he should have gotten shot. He was out at night in the dark. So what? Listen, when I was my son's age, my best friend Craig and I used to get in camouflage clothes that we bought at the Army surplus store, and we put camouflage face paint all over ourselves, and we snuck out of the house, and we went down train tracks, and we snuck in the Santa Anita racetrack, and we snuck in buildings. We did all kinds of crazy stuff. Should I have been shot? I was breaking the law, really breaking the law. I didn't know how dangerous that was. Andrew Zimmerman calls the police and says, there's a black teen and I'm following him. I'm going to get out of the car. And they go, no, don't get out of the car. Don't get out of the car. And he says, I'm armed. Don't get out of the car. He gets out of the car. And by the way, Andrew Zimmerman, you stupid dummy, the gun is the last resort. Always. Killing someone is the last resort. This guy's got zero self-defense capability. Is pudgy, out of shape. Oh, I have so many negative things to say about you. So you killed a child. He gets out of the car, goes after him, gets into a physical confrontation, and can't defend himself? You're a grown man. That was a little boy. You can't restrain a little boy. And then you get so afraid. By the way, you get beat up. This is the crazy thing. What happens if you get beat up? Nothing. I've been beat up. Okay, watch this. I'm going to take my glasses off. I'm going to show you what happens. I'm 47 years old. I've been beat up quite a few times in my life. Some of them were totally deserved. People go, no one ever deserves to get punched. You don't know me that well then. See this? Ready? One. Chris won't look. I could just look. Ready? Right. See? You can see the side of my nose broken right there. I broke my nose. How'd I break my nose? By getting punched in the face. Okay? No way, Tanya, but there's my point. Trayvon Martin shouldn't have called the police, and he would never call the police because he believes that what if the police come? Those police are going to shoot me. And every other black teen believes it too. For sure you should walk away and get help. But if a guy confronts you, listen, you got an adult and a child. You have an adult and a child, a black child in a country where he believes he is in danger and a threat. And then you got a guy that comes after and says, freeze, where are you going? Questions him unjustly, some crazy thing. Okay, honestly. In fact, he was talking to his girlfriend, saying there's some creepy guy following me. I mean, you know, and who would have thought that some creepy guy that's following you in a truck is going to jump out and pull a gun on you? I mean, my goodness, it would just be so crazy. And I've had cops pull guns on me. And it was scary, but I never thought they were going to shoot me. I just thought I needed to, like, obey more. It's so, and maybe I'm just naive when I say it. Maybe I'm just naive. Was that it?
That's it. I think you've ruffled some.
I know I've ruffled feathers. Hey, listen, I know I missed Monday. I did a little bit yesterday. I'll be back on Friday. I'm having tons of fun with you guys. Well, yes, and I think it's justified. I just do, Tanya. You're talking about a child. I've confronted lots of people in my time. I just haven't been shot for it. You know, I'm a smart aleck. I popped off to a cop. I've popped off to many, many people that were bigger than me. I've suffered the consequences for it, but I've just never been shot, and I've never feared of being shot. You know, I teach my kids not to do that as well, and I think if I'm I can't even go there. If I'm a disenfranchised youth and I got some creepy guy following me and telling me what to do, I mean, who knows? And all we know is what Zimmerman said. All we know is Zimmerman, and he's a liar anyway, right? I mean, he's a total freak show. You got to read that article in Esquire magazine about the Zimmerman family. They are leeches and pariahs. But here's what it is, and this is the good news we're going to close on. Do you know what the greatest news about all this is? Jesus came. He died for our sins. He's coming back. He's coming back. He's coming back to save all of us, and we can tell every single person we come into contact that there is a Jesus out there, that he loves us, that the Lord loves you, that he sent his son to die for you, and that we can be with him for eternity. The only thing that's going to fix the ills of our society is a revival. And I'm going to I am going to pray. Let me hold this up, YouTube. See, YouTube. I'm going to pray for revival while leading this rebellion. And I am stoked all of you are joining with us. God bless. I will see you on, today? I'm going to see you tomorrow night because I'm going to get to see Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, Mystery of the Shemitah, Harbinger. I'm going to see Eric Metaxas, who wrote Wilberforce, 7 Men the Secret of Their Greatness, 7 Women the Secret of Their Greatness, Wilberforce, Bonhoeffer, and Dennis Prager! Dennis Prager! I bought Dennis Prager a full box of Cuban cigars because he's a big cigar fan, and I'm going to go give him a box of Cuban cigars tomorrow night. So I will stream some of that if I possibly can. I'll take some selfies with some people, and I will post them all because I love you here, Facebook, and I love you, YouTube, and all you rebels out there. God bless. See you soon. How do I finish this? Finish.